Hey, hello everybody. Good morning and happy Friday. Welcome to another episode of Fintech Fridays. Just for everyone's awareness, the reason I started this podcast is because of this guy that we're going to talk to. He got me linked into this thing, so I guess thank you. Maybe. Welcome, everyone. Jason Frazier. Jason's the Chief Strategy Officer at EPM and a longtime friend of mine. Glad to have you on this side of a podcast. I'm usually on your end of it, being grilled by you.
Yep. No, it's a nice change of pace, but I appreciate it, and I'll take the blame. Right, I'll take the blame for your success. It's kind of funny you said that because I do. It's successful, right? It's successful, or will be, right?
Especially my mom watches, so that's good.
My mom watches too, so there we go. We got the two stalwarts there. But what's funny is I do this mortgage video mastermind each week with Carl White, Scott Shang, and Ginger Bell, and some of the guests they've had on have talked about, oh, hey, I saw Frazier doing that, so I did it. So it became like blaming me because they're like, I don't know if I would have done that, knowing all the work I had to put into it. So, but I'll take the blame. Blame Frazier.
It's been fun. It's a little bit intimidating knowing that every week you've got to come up with something and get it out there. And so you will actually be you're live. This is going to be as live as we get because we're doing this one in the same week that we're going to drop it. So,
awesome.
But the reason that we're doing that is there's a couple things that I think are timely that we should talk about. The first one is EPMX. I'm seeing all kinds of posts and traffic around this thing called EPMX in January 2022. What the heck is EPMX?
EPMX, that's the $1 million question. So EPMX, I'll take a little bit back to history, and this was prior to me being here. But EPM had an exchange every year, which was kind of like their sales rally and get together a couple days. Executive leadership, manager, sales leaders, wholesale, retail, all together, just talking about just like what every other mortgage company does, right? So one thing is EPM. So one thing that Eddie wanted to do is like, hey, how do we make this a housing instead of just having us internal? How do we make this into a housing and agnostic, not about equity prime mortgage, not about EPM, but how do we make this a housing industry to where we could merge real estate and mortgage together and just have a couple of days of great content? So that was kind of one of the tasks. It also is the launch of Empowering People More, which is our agnostic housing industry media brand that we're launching at this event. This will be one of the events, and actually EPMX will be the first Empowering People More event, and Broker Success and other events that we're doing for housing is going to be under Empowering People More. And so meaning people that will be speaking at this conference outside of, we have some great speakers so like, for example, we haven't announced the whole slate, but just for example, Egypt Sherrod, you may know her from HGTV. She's had a couple shows on there, Property Virgins being one of those. And she gets a lot into renovation. She's actually local here in Atlanta, so we talked with her. She's going to be there. Damon John, the Shark, he is going to be one of the keynote speakers. We're also doing, and look, I would love to say and they're awesome. Don't get me wrong. They're by themselves, along with all the other speakers, they're great. But those aren't even the full announced speakers there, because we have some even bigger hitters than them there, and including those in the industry. And guess what? Some of the speakers are actually competitors of ours. If we want to take it down to the mortgage banking industry, this is about it. It's nice to say, oh, we have an abundance mindset, rising tide lifts all boats. We put our money where our mouth is, meaning we're giving visibility to everyone, even if they directly compete against us, if they are one of our people, meaning they're modern, they think about the future of the industry. They're doing whatever they can to create an awesome brand and an awesome experience for consumers so that our industry endures longer than the next 20 minutes, that it's here for the next decade, right? So we don't care whether they're part of our company or not, as long as they adhere to the message internally, like they're already doing, not that we're requiring them, but they're our people. They have the vision, They have the mission of empowerment in their business. And so we want them to be on our stage to speak to all that. And it's going to be a small, elite group of professionals. And I say elite because if you're coming to this event, then you definitely have the elite mindset of learning, because the content that you're going to be getting is absolutely amazing. We have mortgage bankers, we have lenders, we have just retail loan officers, mortgage brokers, we have real estate brokers, we have big real estate empires joining. It's going to be an amazing event. Also, which is great being on here, is that the first partner that we signed up for us at EPMX was FinLocker, because Brian, because Brian View has always been for the industry and everything that he does. FinLocker is a perfect example of that. And so we couldn't be happier to have you, brother, as a partner for EPMX. And, look, we're just excited about it. I can't tell you who's going to be on it, but we are putting on the stage at one time something that's never been done in the history of housing at one event. And we're doing it. And it's because we're trying to be different. We're not only just be different, but different first, better second. And that's what EPMX is.
I love it. When I saw it, I think I reached out and said, I want to be part of it. I don't even know what that means, but we
absolutely, always.
I had the pleasure of being at the Broker Success, which was really the first in-person mortgage industry event post kind of quarantine, right?
Yep.
And if that was any sneak preview of what's about to happen in January, then people are in for an unbelievable 2 days. I'm looking forward to it.
Totally agreed.
And just for folks that are learning about EPM, Eddie Perez, the one of the founders and the CEO, just one of the most genuine stand-up people in our industry. This empower people more is not just a tagline. This is how this company operates, how the people inside the walls of EPM think and operate. It's beyond culture. It's, Eddie is one of those selfless people. I have the pleasure of being friends with him, so I can say it firsthand. But I've also witnessed it almost on a daily basis, how he just is helping people who, frankly, aren't going to add anything to his business or bottom line. That's just who he is. So really excited about this event.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And like you said, for those of you that were at Broker Success, and I told some of these people, I said, look, if you like Broker Success, you're going to love EPMX, because it is going to be a next level event. And honestly, part of that is like, look, most industry events, not all of them, but a lot of them are just the same thing over and over again, repackaged, content's good, whatever. This is really, our vision of like, hey, let's change the game on this. Like, let's really do something different and give people a great experience, so they know that if they're going to take times away from their business and their families and travel and spend the money to be there, we got to give them something of value, and not just a 30,000 foot view of something that maybe or maybe not won't work in their business.
Yep. So love everything about what you guys are doing. Super excited about that event. Glad to be able to make the cut. But let's kind of pivot for a bit. And so fresh off the presses, I think it was yesterday we saw the announcement come from Zillow, around the pulling out of this iBuyer platform, this program, right?
Yep.
And you've not been shy in the last 24 hours to kind of post some commentary on it. But let's just talk a little bit about kind of what you think that signals, if anything, to the broader market, and really what does it mean for our industry in the mortgage context? Because I have kind of some thoughts there. I'll pile on after you start.
Sure. I mean, look, and there's two sides, and it's funny because I just did a video on this yesterday about this. And there's two sides of it. There's like, what does it mean for consumers? Like, why does this matter to them? And then why does this matter to the industry, and why is it important? The first thing I'll say, which is an open important, is like, more of like, oh, the bubble, the bubble people, like, hey, like there's a bubble and this is a red. Of course, that's the headline, right? This is a red flag for the real estate market. No, it's a red flag for not scaling your business correctly, effectively, and not executing an opportunity. Now, don't get me wrong. Look, we've all, even before iBuyers were a thing, right? And I mean a real thing, and in a structured, corporation way, you had the we buy ugly houses, right? You had signs, we pay cash for homes, this stuff. This is just at a bit larger scale. Now you have other players like an OfferPad and Open Door, and Open Door has still seemed to be able to make this work. They've been able to make it work for a while. And I know some of the people I used to work with, one of the people over at Open Door, Keith Verboy. So these aren't stupid people. But here's what I'll tell you is that one is it was a great opportunity for Zillow, based off of everything else that they were doing, to go into this. However, I think one of those things that they thought is that their brand was going to be able to overcome the operational inefficiencies that they had, and that their brand alone would help them execute that strategy. Obviously, we all make jokes about this estimate. If anything, says like, look, if you're, don't count on, I would say this to consumer, don't count on this estimate. If you could, then they should have known better as far as what they were buying and what they know they could sell for. So that's the one thing, is that they, at any business, any good business will take risks. They took a risk, they didn't execute, and they lost. Right now, is this really going to hurt Zillow in the long term? I think it hurts some credibility as far as, do they really know what they're doing in certain forms, to investors for sure, because I mean they're looking at like a total of $500 million loss on this. They lost 300 and some million in the last quarter alone. So to me, I'm thinking it's got to be more than $500 million. Maybe it's $500 million on top of that 300. Maybe it's a complete $1 billion loss, which is a big bite. Laying off 25% of its workforce to boot. Now, here's another thing. It's not happening today. Everyone's like, the normal players are like, hey, Zillow's laying off 25%. Not today. It's going to be a wind down. It's going to take time. I think they said probably like somewhere around 18 months or, maybe, 16 to 18 months to wind down the business. Right now, it will happen, of course. But here's the thing, right? It's just understand it from a consumer standpoint. Is it doesn't signify bubble. It just, they speculated, and they speculated wrong, right? It's just like with, someone goes long in the market or short of the market, right? You're kind of playing a little bit. Now, they scaled huge. They made a big bet and they lost, right? So that's from a consumer standpoint. This shouldn't worry you about anything, but this is the one message that I do have for the consumers that may, or if you're watching this in your industry, you may want to share this message with the consumers, is understand that when we give power to large corporations like Zillow or others to buy up property in masses, it can screw with the comps like this will, because now all those properties are devalued. And it adds to the supply and demand issue that's causing prices to go through the roof. And understand this, as a seller, you may be okay with that, but eventually you're going to want to buy another house. And I've talked to sellers where it was too good to pass up not to sell their house. And then they're like, oh my God, now I got to rent. I've been renting for 6 months because I can't find a house. Right. So you're adding to the issue. So understand that it's better to not sell your house to an iBuyer. It's better to put yourself in the ecosystem. And the message to the real estate and mortgage professionals is step up your game. Right? Help these consumers, help them stay within our traditional ecosystem by giving them a good experience, and police our own. And when we see bad actors, real estate agents or mortgage professionals that are screwing up what we're trying to do in this industry, we got to report them, right? We got to call them out. We got to make sure that the bad actors don't hurt the livelihood of this industry that we all love so much. And also, you also have to create just a great experience in general, because one thing that, especially, and I'm speaking to you, really, Mrs. and Mr. Real Estate Agent, is because what you need to understand is that consumers were gladly paying 8 to 12% to do this and get less for their house, so they didn't have to deal with the real estate agent. Meaning they paid more and lost money, so they didn't have to deal with you, right? And that's because of the perception. So do better. This is your opportunity to capitalize it, not to throw mud and dirt on Zillow, but to capitalize so that you have a better way, that you're a professional and that you're worth what you get paid.
Dude, I love it. I think, and that message is relevant to that real estate professional, certainly, but it's also relevant to every other party to the transaction, including the loan officer, the lender. We all have to do better. And I think the fact that this is a story is because consumers chose that brand, Zillow,
Yep.
and what it meant to them, and the experience, frankly, that they got, the technology that the experience they got from the technology took them there, kept them there. To your point, led them to spend 8 to 12% to sell their home.
Yep.
We have to do better. We have to be focused on the consumer experience, because it's not enough to say you're going to have better service, right? Those are table stakes. And frankly, I don't even know what better service means anymore. I know that it has to be
a given.
Yeah. As a consumer of anything, I'm first looking at convenience. That's most important to me personally. What's most convenient for me? And then somewhere around number 3 or 4 is really the price. It's convenience, experience, trust. Mm-hmm. Can I trust this? Is there certainty? And then price. And there's still a lot of folks in our industry that kind of go the other way. They lead with price, and then they don't deliver on anything else. And they're not creating any kind of a customer relationship. And frankly, those are probably the people that are screaming the loudest when their customer refinances with the servicer.
Yeah. No, it's true. And an important message is something that, Phil Mancuso, our president, and I talk about on Losers Lunch, is this is a perfect example that perceived value is greater than price.
Yeah.
Right? Because if price really was the ultimate decision maker, they wouldn't be selling their house for less, and they wouldn't be paying more in the service fees than what a normal agent commission is. Right. And so that to me proves our thesis about that. It's never a price issue. It's a value issue.
That's right.
And, I know you buy that 100%, and so do I. But what you just said is right on, is that, we can't talk about table stakes as if that's some great thing.
Yeah.
Right? I can't be amazed going into Starbucks and when they give me a coffee. That's what you're supposed to do. Right. So if I'm sitting there saying, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to give you a great experience. Like, hey, if am I selling a house, let's say it's like a $500,000 house, right? Or, let's, say, actually, because we're in a crazy market right now, let's say it's like 9 something, right? Am I looking at like 45,000 in commission, and you're going to try to sell me on because you pick up the phone and because you give a good experience? I hope so. Right. Like, I hope that's what is it. And then what you're also telling me is playing into my perception, meaning that most of the industry doesn't do that. Right. Like, we have to stop being so stupid about what we do. Right. Like, let's invest a little bit in our messaging, because especially when we have these opportunities in front of us, when a competitor, and Zillow is your competitor, if you're a real estate agent or mortgage professional, Zillow is your competitor. Make no mistakes about it. And look, I'm not one of those guys that says, like, I'm right, you're wrong. In this case, I am, you are, if your opinion is that Zillow is not a competitor.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's okay, right? There's plenty of business models in other industries where the supplier is also the competitor. That's fine.
Yeah.
And you can't. It does drive me a little crazy to hear people complain, but they're also the ones that are at the first in line for the Zillow leads.
Yep.
You can't have it both ways. So
you can't.
It's either, you're either all in or you're not. The other thing that I think to speak a little bit about is, I think this comes back to local matters, right?
Yes.
I think this is another shot in the arm for the local professional, whether it's a real estate professional or mortgage professional. Because again, let's assume service is the table stakes. You do have to think about your experience from a technology perspective with the user, with the consumer. But, I think you don't have these massive local iBuyer models, right? Or these massive local DTC, direct-to-consumer models.
Yep.
I think this is where our local professionals can shine again in differentiating themselves on top of a exceptional consumer experience from a technology perspective. And I know that's kind of near and dear to what you guys are all about over at EPM.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, and a lot of people are like, oh, well, I guess APM does everything. No, we don't, right? Like, I'm in a huge freaking glass house, right? All lenders are, right?
Yeah.
I look at the number one lenders in the, not our number one, but the top 10, top 5 lenders. They don't do everything right. We don't do everything right. It's really what our intent is to do, right? And that's what separates us, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that we are crazy and obsessed about getting better and learning from the mistakes that we do, so we don't make a give or mitigate that, right? That's what any good modern business does, right? But that's not what it's not about throwing. Like I said, it's not about throwing dirt or throwing rocks from a big glass house. It's just saying, like, this is the things. Like, the message. It's funny when I say these messages. And I think a lot of people who know me really understand where I'm coming from on this. It's not to be an asshole or anything like that. It's just to say, look, when I'm saying this stuff, I'm saying it to myself too. I say it to my team here. I talk about it as leadership. Same thing. Like, no bullshit. Like, this is what we do, and we got to get better. These are opportunities, and they're not going to come around all the time. Right. Like, the future is happening. Technology is increasing. All of this stuff. You have the fintech lenders that are focused on an algorithm and technology as a replacement, not a supplement, not a tool to help us. Those are the things that we have to worry about, because then that's when the narrative comes down to price. And this is the issue, is that if the narrative to the consumer does become all about price only, we're going to have a huge issue.
Yeah.
We are going to have a huge issue.
Yep. Yeah. And it's going to, it'll be painful for a lot of us. The part that I'm in specific to mortgage, the piece or the segment of the market that I still am super bullish on, kind of the local aspect, is probably arguably the biggest single segment, which is the first-time homebuyer segment. This is by and large a consumer who's never done, well, by definition of a first-time homebuyer, they've never done this before. So this is all brand new to them. They have a million questions to begin with. As a society, we don't provide strong financial literacy to our young people, high school to college and beyond, and people are kind of left to fend for themselves. And so this is where I think the local loan officer, local real estate professional can and should shine and excel, because this is the segment that truly needs that expertise. And I don't want to call it hand-holding, because it's not hand-holding, but it's a guided mentor kind of relationship to take them through this process. And I think that's where, we lost a little focus on it with the 18 to 24 month run of refinances falling out of trees. But I'm excited to kind of see this shift back to this market where that local professional can shine again, because it's important. Yeah,
it needs to be harder. I'm one that's been asking for higher rates.
Yeah,
because it equalizes it. It separates the players from the pretenders. Right. And the people that are all of a sudden everyone's a top producer now because they were, 95% refi. Congrats. Who couldn't do that?
Right.
Right. Not to take away from what you did. Look, obviously you were doing something right, to get people to continue to, to use you and work for you. But I'm just saying, like, let's not beat our chest and crow because the sun came up. Like, that's not, it was happening all without us regardless. Right. And so, to your point, about, first time home buyers, it's about being that advisor. Right. So you do, and the hand holding, I think is a good term for that, but you do that as a coach. You do that as an advisor, right? To guide them effectively and efficiently through, it's going to be one of the largest transactions, especially if they've never had any experience with buying or selling real estate before, is they're going to have a lot of questions, right? You're signing look, we know everyone's not at 30, not everyone's keeping their house for 30 years. But that's what they're signing. An agreement to, let's just say it, average mortgage, 30 years, right? They're saying, and a lot of money, and you're borrowing a lot of money. And there's a lot of bad things that can happen if you don't manage this transaction properly, right? And so you couldn't be more right on. Like this is the opportunity for those mortgage professionals, those real estate professionals to show why they're great at what they do, but they're great at what they do is because they're great at helping you.
Yeah. Love it. Well, this has been a blast. I always close these episodes by just asking, my guests to just share a little bit about themselves to help our audience know you a little bit better. I feel like people really know you because you're out there, but what's kind of, what would be something that people would be surprised to learn about Frazier?
I don't know. I'm a pretty boring dude, to be honest with you. So I don't know. I would say that look, I mean, if you watch my content and stuff, I say this quite a bit. But maybe you haven't, and maybe you don't know this because everyone's really shocked when I tell them this. But I'm an extreme introvert.
I knew you were going to say that.
Because that's the only thing that I've ever said that people are like shocked that that it is. Is that I'm an introvert, right? So even though I speak on stage and, talk to, am out there doing what I do, it isn't easy for me to do it. It's just, I had to get past my fear I had to let my passion be greater than my fear.
Right.
The fear of public speaking, the fear of, am I saying stuff? Am I doing right? And, and I think it also comes with age too, is you just, you start to, now not that I'm like super old, but as I get older, I understand, those veterans above us, why they don't have filters, right? Because at some point you just don't care, right? Like, look, I'm going to attract the right people to my message and I'm going to repel the ones that don't really matter anyway. I don't care about winning anyone over. I'm going to say what I'm going to say. And all I look at is like, hey, am I moving the needle, right? I apologize for the cliche, but am I moving the needle for people? Am I helping? Yeah. I love getting the text messages and the DMs from people that I've never talked to, that have never liked any of my stuff or commented to say, I saw something you did. It changed my business. I want to say thank you. When we were, both at AIM Fuse, I had a ton of brokers that I've never met, never talked to, or at least connected on social that just come up and just said, thanks for my content. It's really helped them out. They like that, the real talk that I do and the fact that I will say a lot of stuff as a Starkey marketer that other people wish they could say and they just can't. So I'm glad to carry that flag for all of you. But it also, I think, understanding is that I'm not just a guy to talk just to talk, is that this is a family business for me. I have a passion for it. I love it. I want to see it endure. I think it's part of my legacy is to make that impact, to help that, not for me, but for the people that sacrificed in front of us, the people that are coming up behind us, the right people, is to do better and to leave this industry better off than what I found it. So I would say the introvert thing is probably something to know, but I'm a pretty boring dude. My hobby is working. Yeah. And I don't go play golf. I don't do really anything. I like, football and stuff like that. So I'd say the introvert's probably the thing that people get shocked out the most. And I had fun with that. Like I'll say like, hey guys, I'm pretty socially awkward and an introvert. So like have fun with that. Just know that if I'm in a crowd of people that I don't know or haven't talked to or whatever, you're literally looking at the worst day of my life. Right? You're really looking at like the worst other than being like dropped in the ocean. Yeah. Right. Like that's actually probably the worst, like my worst fear. But secondary to that is being in a group of people that I have to talk to that I don't know anything about and trying to do small talk. Right. I'm just awkward. I don't do those things well. So, if you see me at an event, just know that I'm not having a good time, right? Like, I mean, it's just not my thing. I mean, I'm having a good time talking and teaching and stuff like that. But like this, those are just, I'm just an uncomfortable guy.
It exhausts you, man. It wears you out. I know that.
It does.
There's a lot of us that are similar. I'm definitely on that end of the spectrum myself. And it's surprising to learn how many people truly are kind of closer to that range. So, well, listen, man, I appreciate you jumping on and sharing the exciting news about EPMX, giving us your thoughts on Zillow and just frankly, just for being you and really adding tremendous value to our industry and especially the young and up and comers. I love watching kind of how you're leading and mentoring the group of kind of the young next superstars. So thanks for all you do. And we'll have you back on soon.
Oh, hey, Ryan, thanks. always love to be on things like this, especially with you. And again, thank you for all what you're doing. And just the final thing I'll leave you with is when we talk about empowering people more. And this isn't. I'm just not look because I've already been working with Brian and FinLocker prior to any of this stuff. But FinLocker is about empowerment. It's about empowering those consumers where they need it the most, because all the other services that FinLocker replaces are just about, getting money from them, selling their data to other stuff. And that's not what FinLocker is about. It's about empowerment. So I appreciate what you and the FinLocker team are doing for the industry.
Thank you for that, man. Appreciate it. And thanks everyone for tuning in this week, and come back next Friday for our next episode of FinTech Fridays. Have a great weekend.